Hoi, this video is a bit of a double-decker. On one hand, we're going to talk about the changes that were announced today, as well as what these changes mean in the context of the Halloween event that just came out, with a little bit of a guide on how to do the Halloween event right. We're going to start with the changes here. First of all, we have a ton of quest fixes once again, progression fixes, mainly revolving around the Aethos staff, for those of you who are still stuck on that, the ones that have come back to the game and cannot progress currently. There's some further advice here if you had issues with your Aethos staff disappearing entirely. If you have that, just read through this, but I hope this fixes at least most issues for most people at this point. Next, we have a fix to an issue with the Nightveil Hallow procedural crafting patterns, the ones that you can get cheaper, the green ones, because they were locked to 640 gear score. Now they can be crafted at a dynamic range with up to 675 gear score, which should greatly increase their value to match intended designs. However, they are not necessarily easy to craft with 675. It appears that using crafting gear for that doesn't seem to affect the gear score, but rather you have to actually use prismatic materials to achieve this. So quite an expensive craft to do if you want to just gamble and your max is 675. Once again, I would probably not invest too much into that and rather go for 700 gear score normal crafts with chromatic seals. Additionally, the black licorice event food now drops throughout the world. This is very relevant. We'll get to that in just a second in context of the Halloween event. They also did a change to memory usage that I honestly don't quite understand. They introduced an optimization in the expansion that they're now removing again, that was changing something about how entity updates are being processed and how they're changing now and whatever, but the wording here is just very confusing for someone who's not working in that field. It really sounds like it's written by someone who's very directly involved in this and has very little idea of how many people outside of this field understand about it. But anyways, apparently maybe this will affect performance somehow. It does say at the end that this has a higher chance of seeing these types of entities, whatever the entities in this case are, the entities are never defined, so that doesn't really help, pop into view, which I'm assuming is also related to the mobs suddenly appearing thing. And they have a second change here saying improved client performance, made a change to prevent the client from creating and tracking local entities that were not being shown due to render cull limits being exceeded in certain areas caused by another recent optimization. Question marks everywhere, but again, I think this has something to do with the whole spawning in, and hopefully this will at least affect the performance during influence races, because that's what they're specifically pointing out here. This would be a lot more readable if they just gave us a normal example saying, hey, okay, this entity is a wolf spawning in or something, and when too many wolves spawn in, this and this happen, or whatever they're trying to say here anyways. But we are moving on to the other part of the patch, which is the Halloween event. Now, in the Halloween event, you can get a few different kinds of candy from the caches around town. You need to put on a costume first. You will find these in your inventory after you've defeated the world boss, and you have to put them into your consumable slot and then use them to actually put on the costume. So a bit confusing, but anyways, once you've put on a costume, you can loot these baskets around the town. I think there's 5 baskets per town, and those have sweets, some extra Nightveil tokens, and a chance to get some clothing as well. You can see the full loot table here. This is, for example, the ghost outfit in here as well, the Cersei set. And then we have all the different candies, including 2 kinds of the black licorice. There are 2 candies that, as far as I'm aware, only have a cosmetic purpose. The first one is the Angry Earth Candy Fish that simply turns you into a fish. I wouldn't use this one because it can bug you out and you can end up not being able to move at all. And I'm not just talking for the duration of being transformed into a fish, but for the duration of the buff, essentially. The second one are the corrupted jelly beans, which, as far as I can tell, only give you a corruption eyes effect. So I think this doesn't do anything else either, or if it does, I haven't found out at least. The ancient grizzly gummies, however, are very interesting, because they say that you can't keep your mind off Nightveil tokens, and you absolutely want to use this, and this is one of the reasons why you want to occasionally grab some baskets at least. Because what they do is they increase the amount of Nightveil Hallow tokens looted by 100%. And this doesn't just apply for the baskets, this applies for the rewards from the caches from the boss itself as well. So as far as I can tell, you can just collect all of the reward caches, and then at some point when you have enough, you can just open all of them at once and use the gummies beforehand. I don't think there should be any limitations to that if you do it that way. Maybe you have to open them daily, I'm not quite sure, but either way, you can see here I opened a single cache without the gummies. It gave me 7 tokens. There's a chance to also get 10 or get 13. That's the maximum you can normally get. And then I opened another one with the gummy effect, and that gave me 20 tokens instead. So that could give me up to 26, but at least 14 in any case. So if you want to farm any of the rewards from this event, then you should probably be using these. And I would still farm the rewards from the event, even though the patterns aren't that great. On one hand, there's some nice cosmetic ones. On the other hand, you can also get the transmog from the weapons themselves. You can get some weapon XP from using these patterns. And at least the legendary tower shield is useful because it's the only one with refreshing moves. So quite a few reasons why you want to have at least some tokens, and these gummies just make it a lot quicker. And that brings us to the mysterious Lost Black Licorice. So if you look at the first version of this is actually not doing anything at all. It seems it's giving the effect Lost Black Licorice tier 5 bad, which I guess is one outcome that you can have. It's one kind of licorice that you can have in the inventory. If you use it, it just doesn't give you any benefits. This is very rare already. I haven't seen any of them drop from baskets yet, and I've looted quite a few. So them dropping in the open world now as well is a very good idea. But there's a second version of the same item, also Lost Black Licorice. And this one gives you a different buff, and that's how you can tell you actually have the effect, which is Lingering Licorice. The distinct taste lingers, and you feel luckier, like you dodged a disaster. I'm not sure if both can actually drop, or if one of them is just a bugged old version, but at least this one is very, very good, and you definitely want to make use of this. As you can see here, this gives you some extra luck for various gathering skills, as well as base luck. But more importantly, this also gives you a 20% extra item craft chance. So if you're refining anything, then you get 20% extra items. This includes cooking, weaving, stone cutting, smelting, leatherworking, and woodworking. And that's of course especially relevant if this works properly for new cooldown mats, because that could add massive value for you. As such, Black Licorice is absolutely worth keeping an eye out for. I think this could be very much worth having, at least for the duration of the event. Now, note that this is only available during the event itself. You can see in the notes here that says this item will magically cease to exist at the end of Nightveil. So you can't just store them for the next year, which would be very cool. But you have to use them right now if you want to make use of them. Again, they are fairly rare to begin with. We'll see how much more they drop in the open world, if that's a better place to farm it. Maybe they'll drop from dungeons and stuff as well. We'll have to find out. Maybe that will make them more accessible. But yeah, they definitely are something you want to look out for. Also only a 5-minute duration, so you better plan your stuff right if you're planning to craft multiple items. If you want to do cooking and smelting and stone cutting, then do it quick. If you're interested in a competition between different options for light, with now also including unyielding, which was recently added as an option for light armor as well, then consider subscribing and clicking the bell. That will come either later today or tomorrow, depending on when I finish it. And if you'd like to support me further, you can do so on Patreon and get early trading and farming tips in return. Thanks to all of my patrons who already do exactly that. And thank you for watching. SLOTH, out.